The face of football is a young one, full of energy and life. Today's athletes are fiercely competitive. They don't let anything slow them down, especially injuries. But there is another side to football people don't think about as often. A side that involves doctor's visits, surgeries, and physical therapy.
And that's part of the problem, I think, too, with the current players is they don't see the results of what they're doing. They don't see the former players until they're former players. You'll see guys that knee replacements, hip replacements. You'll see guys that slurring their words. Just guys that are bad off from a long-term standpoint.
Each year, 62,000 high school football players sustain a concussion according to research from the University of Pittsburgh. In the last year alone, 1 in 3 college football players sustained a concussion, while 1 in 5 suffered from multiple concussions. The long effects of those concussions are daunting as well. Research shows players who sustain concussions suffer from memory loss, dementia, and even death. The most common form of dementia is Alzheimer's, which affects the part of the brain responsible for thought, memory, and language. Dr. Amanda Smith of the Bird Alzheimer's Institute in Tampa is working with other researchers to find treatment for the brain-degenerating disease.
We've known for years that head injury is a risk for Alzheimer's disease. So they kind of have a double whammy because they're at risk for both chronic traumatic encephalopathy as well as Alzheimer's.
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is a brain disease found in younger athletes with a history of repetitive brain trauma like concussions. Symptoms of CTE are similar to those of Alzheimer's. They include memory loss, confusion, difficulties with speech, erratic behavior, and slowed muscular movements. It's the only preventable form of dementia because it's directly caused by the hits to the head. Currently, there is no way to detect it until after the athlete dies. To help fight this, doctors across the country are researching the potential damage of hard hits on the football field. But you don't have to have a PhD to see the danger that big impacts have on a player's physical health. It seems as if every week fans witness their favorite players taking a brutal beating on the gridiron. Those hits can cause big problems. But what about the small hits? Play after play after play. The hits that players walk away from every day seemingly unharmed. How much damage do those hits cause? That's something researchers at the University of Florida are trying to find out. Dr. Del Rossi and a group of researchers at USF teamed up with local high school players to find out more information about subconcussive hits or impacts that don't result in head injury.
The main objective of the study is to determine whether or not the minor hits that athletes sustain day in and day out are detrimental to brain function and whether or not they're cumulative or have cumulative effects.
As part of the study, players at Berkeley Preparatory School in Tampa wear special equipment whenever they take to the field. At first glance, you might think this is a regular football helmet, but if you take a look inside, you'll see 6 accelerometers. The accelerometers measure the time of day, location, and the magnitude of the hit experienced by the player. The data from the helmets are sent to Dr. Del Rossi's lab at USF. Throughout the season, participants visit USF to have their brain activity measured. They perform a series of computer tasks while researchers monitor their brain function. The results are then compared to the amount of hits players sustain throughout the season. Berkeley Prep School trainer Eddie Button says studies like this are important to protect the lives and futures of athletes.
We're trying to get an idea and see what day to day, what week to week, what season to season impact is happening. Is there a recovery? How long is the recovery? Then I'm hopeful that there will be lots of people looking into the data and see from an equipment standpoint, are we sufficient? From a rule standpoint, are we sufficient? From a coaching and teaching standpoint, are we sufficient?
At the end of the football season, players will come back to USF and do a postseason test so coaches can get new measurements and see how the player did throughout the entire football season. Participant Weston Dickerson, senior football player at Berkeley Prep, has already experienced 2 concussions since starting football during his sophomore year. He only remembers 1 concussion that affected his body and his memory. However, that hasn't stopped him from loving the game and everything that comes with it.
It's a really good team experience. It gives you leadership and you just form a bond with all your teammates.
By participating in the study, Dickerson says he now knows how to better keep himself safe from injuries. He's using what he learned from the study and putting it to action on the football field.
I've learned to not use my head to hit. It's been a big deterrent wearing the accelerometer, because it tells me how hard I'm getting hit, and it just kind of brought to my attention the side effects of using your head.
As the dangers of head-to-head contact become more evident, the NFL has increased its research efforts in order to better understand the impact this sport has on a player's physical health. In 2009, a study commissioned by the NFL showed that former players were diagnosed with Alzheimer's and other memory-related diseases much more often than the normal rate for men. NFL players are being diagnosed 19 times more often than the national average. To help guard himself from the long-term effects of his concussions, Bell regularly undergoes memory tests.
It seems sort of simple, and I can get through it very easily right now. But what I want to do is to kind of track how I'm going and possibly track any changes over the course of the year.
So far, Bell hasn't seen any changes in his brain function.
Not yet. No, not yet. I hate to say not yet, right? But no, not yet. Everything's fine so far.
Bell says knowing the potential dangers behind concussions is important for every player. After all, football is a contact sport, and with contact comes the risk of injury.
Why is it important to put a label on a cigarette box about, warning this may cause cancer? I mean, if you're going to choose to do something, then you need to know all the options. You need to know all the effects down the road, and you need to know, and if you choose after that point, right? Hey guys, playing football, you're going to have 10,000 head-to-head contact. It could lead to concussion. If you had a concussion, it could lead to dementia. All these. Do you so choose to play after knowing that? And that's a whole different story.
The attitudes towards concussions have drastically changed over the decades. Bell says concussions weren't taken too seriously back when he was playing professional football. Some players would experience dozens of concussions without ever undergoing treatment and are now suffering from dementia and other long-term effects associated with the brain.
When I played, it was just one of those little nagging things that hurry up and shake it off and get there. It wasn't taken as seriously as it is today.
It's imperative that players, coaches, and parents know the symptoms behind concussions and how to treat them. If not, players face an uncertain future filled with a range of medical issues that could have been prevented. Alexandria Jones, reporting for TV News.